When you consider all the voice work as well in this movie, this has to be one of the biggest collections of A-list superstars I have ever seen in a movie. But the live action people on screen include Ryan Reynolds and John Krasinski, who wrote, directed, and produced this film as well. Let's talk about If. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new movie, If. This is in theaters right now. It was, like I said, written, directed, and produced by John Krasinski, and he co-stars in it alongside Ryan Reynolds and this very, very talented young girl, Kaylee Fleming, who I have not seen before, but man, she could be one to watch. She was in The Walking Dead, which I didn't watch. Anyway, before we launch into the specifics of this film, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got movie and TV reviews on the channel, and just about every day something new goes up, so there's always a lot to check out. With that in mind, please consider subscribing, click that like button, and comment down below. Also, check out my Letterboxd. That's in the description below. Letterboxd is a really, really cool site to track your movie watching, and you can rate them and make different lists and stuff. And my personal Letterboxd profile is found in the description below, so you can follow me on that if you'd like. All right, so If. This is really, really one that I was hoping to just love. It looked really fun. It looked really interesting, but it is incredibly frustrating. So essentially, the plot is this young girl, like I said, played by Kaylee Fleming, and her neighbor, played by Ryan Reynolds, find themselves able to see people's imaginary friends, or ifs. That includes this big purple, I don't want to say monster, but, you know, for lack of a better term, I guess that's what he is. And that is voiced by Steve Carell. You've no doubt seen him in the, in the previews and whatever. But that, obviously is another A-lister. But I won't even go into all of the people that voice characters in this movie, because there are a lot of imaginary friends. We see sort of this home, it's a little bit like if you remember the old Cartoon Network show, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. It's a little bit like that because they all live in this kind of place. But anyway, that's going a little bit down the rabbit hole with the plot. But we meet a lot of them, and I will not tell you who voices them, because it's really fun to try and figure out. A lot of them I didn't figure out. It wasn't until after I looked, and I was like, oh my God, this thing is like star-studded. So Krasinski, look, he obviously has a lot of friends in the industry, maybe called in a favor or two, but people just wanted to be a part of this movie, and I love that for them. However, this is a real mixed bag, and it's unfortunate. So let's talk about some of the positives, because I've already mentioned one of them, and I'll expand on this. Kaylee Fleming, she's in almost every scene of this movie. I mean, she really is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and my God, she is a great actress. Walking Dead, I wasn't familiar with. She was in one of the Star Wars movies, but I don't remember those. They kind of come and go for me. I think it was The Force Awakens, but anyway, she could definitely be one to watch in the future here, because she gives a really heartfelt performance, a really good performance. There's some laughs in what she does as well. And she is really adept at playing off of creatures that obviously aren't there when they're recording or when they're filming the movie. So, she's able to do that pretty well. Of course, working in the Star Wars universe, I guess there was some of that too. Oh yeah, we'll just add that in post later. But whole characters that aren't there, I don't know. And she does a lot of that in this. But her chemistry with Ryan Reynolds is great too. And look, I'm a Ryan Reynolds fan. I say it all the time, because I do think that his shtick might get a little bit old for people. It is not old for me. I still really enjoy, all of his performances. I like him as a person, and all of that. I will say this is definitely more of a tamped down Reynolds performance. He's not necessarily, doing his usual, but there are definitely, hints of that, and the dry wit and the sarcasm and all of that. He's definitely employing a little bit of that, but I think this is definitely a more dramatic performance than maybe we've seen lately. And this kind of stuff leads me into some of the negatives. So before we get there, let me also extol the virtues of Steve Carell. He is great as Blue. Who, yes, is a purple monster, and they talk about that in this. He's really, really great too. So the acting is far from the problem in this movie. I will mention a couple of other people that are sort of, part of the main characters, which is Fiona Shaw, Liza Colon-Zayas, and some voice work from Louis Gossett Jr. and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who both voice ifs that we see a lot of in this movie. But that is not the problem. The problem mainly is the tone of this movie. I'm not sure who this movie is made for. I was kind of waiting to see it with my nephew, but he doesn't get out of school for another couple weeks, and weekends are tough. So I'm just like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to see this by myself. And the truth is, I'm kind of glad, because I think this is going to be a little bit heavy, a little bit depressing, and maybe even a little bit boring for kids. And you would never know it from the poster or from the trailer. But it's got some heavy stuff going on. And look, not that kids can't do heavy stuff. Obviously, Disney has kind of weaned children on that for generations, right? But in a more, animated bow and all of this. There's like one scene, and it's very, very, depressing, for lack of a better word. It's this sort of dance sequence with this older woman, and it reminded me of the spoiler alert for In the Heights, but it reminded me of the death sequence for the grandmother in The Heights. And I was like, what exactly is going on here? And the woman doesn't die in If, so spoilers for that. But it's that feeling of like, man, this kind of ground the movie to a halt. And I just don't see kids being enamored by that. And then on the other side, I think it's maybe a little too cutesy for adults. So I think this is one of those movies where, look, John Krasinski certainly had a vision, and I think it is interesting. I think the world building could have been a lot better. That's another issue. I don't think we quite explore the world of the Ifs as much as we could have, and I think that would have been the most exciting part of the movie. Sure, the father-daughter treatment with Kaylee Fleming and John Krasinski, that's sort of the heart of the movie, certainly. But it turns out there's like 8 other hearts of the movie. And as a result, Krasinski is really, really trying to pull on these heartstrings. And it seemed just too obvious. Like it really just was too in your face about it. I will admit, at the very end, after they put the title up, but before the credits start rolling at the end, there are these little vignettes or whatever, a montage of a certain thing. And I will say that did get to me. But the whole movie, there was like this idea of like, okay, there's going to be like a surprise at the end. There's going to be, a little bit of a, gotcha ending. And it wasn't for me. It was something I was able to figure out pretty early on. And I'm not usually good at that sort of thing. I actually just referenced that in another video, where I usually just go along for the ride. I don't try to think too much about it. I just try to enjoy the movie or the show. But this one was pretty obvious, I thought. And so when it hit that emotional moment towards the end, it didn't hit me in the way that I think Krasinski wanted it to. And it's a shame, because I think this movie had a lot of potential. And as a result, I think we might get an interesting sequel to this if we explore the world of the Ifs a little bit more. But I think there was a huge ball dropped in this movie. This was a huge disappointment and mixed bag for me. I'm going to leave If with a C. which is much lower than I anticipated going into it. I will say it has one of the greatest music montage moments that we've seen in recent memory. To Tina Turner's "Better Be Good to Me." That's definitely in the positive column. But again, it sticks out a little bit like a sore thumb. I don't know that it fits, but it was fun to watch. So, all right, you can check If out in theaters if you so desire. All right, that will do it. Thank you for watching Dan Reviews It. We'll see you next time. Bye.